So when I was in high school, and they had a career day, uh, the word going around was pretty much they would be looking for engineers someday, and you can make some money. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll sign up for engineering. That was in the early '80s. Um, had no idea what I was doing. I never tinkered around with engineering or electrical stuff much when I was a kid, although I hunted and fished and rode mini bikes and knew how to fix things mechanically and do a lot of the things that young kids I'm not sure can do now. Irregardless, I never was playing with capacitors and diodes in my basement or taking apart radios and TVs. So I plummeted off to college and spent most of my time dreaming about being in a band and playing my drums with my roommates, and was really more into the music than I was into my engineering. And plus, where I went to school, most of the engineering courses were calculus, and it was kind of first in, first out, you know, force everything into your brain and move on to the next class and then forget the last class. And I really did really well in my humanities. All my philosophy and psychology and English and humanities courses, I got straight A's in, even logic. But when it came to engineering classes, I just math I did well in too. But engineering classes, I just I don't know. They just got on the chalkboard and started writing down things, and there wasn't a lot of hands-on. So anyway, I got out of college and had no idea what I was going to do, and I could relate to a lot of young engineers who probably don't know what they're going to be doing with their careers in engineering school. So I sat at my desk and I did well out of guilt and obligation and really what motivated me was fear of failure. But I did well. I knew how to write. I knew how to explain myself. I advanced pretty well in my career. I saw a lot of people come and go and quit and move on to other jobs in my career. So I went about 5 years, and I was playing sports and working out, and still dreaming of being in a band, making an album. You can see my album on one of my other posts. That was around '88, '89 when I first started work. I was still like in denial that I was going to be an engineer for the next 30 years. But after 5 years, I was like, maybe I'm just afraid. So I went ahead and got my master's, and what I did was relearn calculus in pretty much a couple months and brush up so that I can get into my master's course. And that was a lot more fruitful because I was taking one class at a time. I was able to digest it on my own time, and I did pretty well in my master's. And then when I got done with my master's degree, I still felt like a complete loser, that I didn't know anything. So I studied on my own for the PE exam in my state, and I was the only one who didn't take the $500 course and carry in notebooks with all the answers. I actually studied and did every problem in the book on my own, and I passed it the first time, which was unheard of, for a PE exam, at least in what I was hearing. So I got my PE exam, and then I pretended to be an engineer for the next 25 years, and I guess my advice to, the school system tries to systematize us all, right? We all end up doing things we don't necessarily, we weren't necessarily created to do, because, we're all being systematized and forced into college, and, not as many people are just doing what they like, plumbing, carpentry, masonry work. Did I mention I was in Mason Summers too for 4 years? Busted my ass in the 90-degree heat 6 or 7 days a week for 13 hours a day. That taught me more than any time at work. Anyway, the young engineers, I have mercy on you, because the future is not that bright. We're all being, not just engineering, but any field. We're all kind of just coming out of college, and it's a bit of a job creation situation going on. So enough rambling about my life and advice to young engineers. But having said that, the reason why I sat home today and spent about as much time trying to understand this compact fluorescent lamp circuit while everybody else was at the beach or on their boats or golfing or on vacations is because I like to punish myself. It goes all the way back to high school where, I punished myself and did things that I wasn't sure I really wanted to do, but, either that or you fall out of the system and become maybe successful. But anyway, so I sat home for as much time today as it took me to mow 2 yards and trim 25 miles of hedges and trees And that was about 5 or 6 hours yesterday, and I spent about that same amount of time today trying to figure out this circuit. And what that entailed was kind of going back and forth from the top to the bottom. And you can see there's wire traces there. So if you for example go to, this is an easy one, that white input there goes to here, and then you look underneath it and find out all the spots it connects to. And then you flip it over and say, oh, that goes to a resistor. Then the other end of the resistor goes here, and it connects to that circuit trace. And you try to flip back and forth, and then you try to draw it as you proceed. And I did this about 75 times, and each time it, I was still scratching my head because it's really hard with all the components on the board to do that process. I didn't use an ohm meter. I didn't verify continuity between the bottom and the top and poke around because I gotta be honest with you, I was trying to find a shortcut to understanding this. I even looked online for the model of the lamp for the actual schematic to see how I compared. I couldn't find this lamp for the life of me. Most of the schematics online have 220 volt inputs. This was 115, 120. And so I couldn't find this exact schematic. But that's what I did. I flipped, flopped, flipped, flop. You can see the numbers of the components are on here. And this is the circuit I came up with. And like I told you in part one, the input stage was pretty straightforward. 115 in, a little bit of EMI filtering, full wave rectification to the capacitor that holds the voltage, DC voltage, and that's the input stage. I came up with this, the switching stage going back and forth. I have some symmetry going on here, and like I said the other day, I'm not really gonna write down all the values and do circuit analysis because I'm not sure anybody understands this. I haven't seen a video online that really has explained this to me at some high level that any average person can understand. But the bottom line is, through there's a coiled inductor here. That was a pain trying to find out how it's connected. But they share this. For example, the emitter of Q1 comes all the way down here, and it ties to one side of that coiled inductor, and the base of Q2 ties to the same, and the collector and the emitters are all kind of wish-wash back and forth to the same coil. And I didn't get every component because some of them are mounted so deep under others, but this is a general idea for what's going on. This is what you have to do to kind of break down a circuit if you ever want to replicate it or even just try to understand it. And the bottom line is the output stage. You get some inductive kick from this inductor, and there's one filament, there's the other filament, there's some diodes to keep the current from going the wrong direction, some capacitors that set up some, geez, I don't know. I couldn't even begin, I've been an engineer for 32 years, albeit I focused on power engineering mainly, and I don't know, my work on radios and TVs has kind of brought me down the path of trying to understand a lot of these things and trying to figure out how, if I had to reuse these circuits in emergency or build something new, or build my own taser or my own microwave transmitter, that I would have some understanding if the world comes to an end. But the bottom line is, I got some Polish beer here. It's a hot day. This was a lot more fun than, spending time with the family or going to the beach or going on a fancy vacation or playing golf or, riding around in a boat and burning fuel out the yin-yang. So, nobody's going to care. I'm not getting a lot of views because nobody gives a shit about what I'm talking about. But you know what? It's kind of like doing a crossword puzzle on a beautiful sunny day. And I hope you enjoyed KAFKUBA. Please subscribe. We got to break this YouTube algorithm and get me some views here. We gotta figure out this algorithm, and so help me out there on that. Thank you very much, my subscribers. Hope you got some kick out of this, and I hope the younger engineers feel better about themselves having seen what I've been through in my life. Take care.